Okay, welcome to... Is everything... I think everything's good now. Welcome to my latest episode of Terraria Talks. On this episode, I'd like to discuss something that's sort of relevant to the holiday season. Well, pretty relevant because it... How did the mimic get all the way up here? Well, it's relevant because it refers to a common feeling that goes on through the holiday season. And the thing I want to discuss is happiness. The thing is that I hear it all the time when people say that happiness is a choice. If you're miserable or if you're unhappy, that's only because you choose to be. You know, because if you wanted to be happy, you'll just be happy. You wouldn't waste your time being miserable all the time. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my freaking life. And I don't understand why, as adults, we feel like we have to come up with these illusions instead of being honest about our emotions. By simply projecting onto other people that they choose to be unhappy. I mean, it may be obvious to me, and not to others, but I think that it's actually reflecting these people and their true emotions. They're not happy, they just want everyone else to think that they are. And then they point the fingers to other people who are unhappy, and instead of choosing to fake their emotions, are deciding to be more honest about how they feel. And then accuse them of choosing to be miserable. Who in their fucking right mind chooses to be unhappy? Get real. The thing about happiness, contrary to popular belief that these idiots, that these practically children believe in, happiness, and I mean, in a way it can be a choice, but for the most part, it isn't. You're not happy because you technically choose to be. I mean, happiness is a result of chemical processes in the brain, which happens in the central cortex, I think it is, in the amygdala. You could double check me on that, because I don't remember. I think it's the amygdala. Or the hippocampus region of the... No, I know the amygdala. I think, yeah, I do know that it takes place somewhere within the central cortex of the brain. That much I do know. Or was it the cerebral cortex? I think that's what it was called. My memory's bad today, but we're not on my memory right now. That's a topic for another day. You see, in the brain, there is these chemicals known as dopamine. You know, happiness is the reaction of chemicals, neurotransmitters, called dopamine and serotonin. And when the body produces dopamine and serotonin, well, although they work a slightly different way, so I'm going to focus more so on dopamine. When the body produces dopamine, it is that chemical that allows you to experience the sensation commonly known as happiness. Dopamine is considered to be the reward chemical. You know, by reward, I mean, think of yourself like going to school, studying something, doing a job, building a house, or even in my case, playing a video game. If you accomplish something, if you accomplish one of those things, you feel this rush of happiness, this sense of fulfillment, this sense of accomplishment. That feeling is the result of dopamine. Defeating a very hard boss in a video game, feeling happy about it, dopamine. Getting that degree after slaving your ass away, eating nothing but ramen noodles, and paying for expensive classes, studying vigorously, dopamine. You have dopamine to thank for that. It happens in all of us. But the thing is that if the body produces the chemical that allows you to experience the sensation known as happiness, then isn't it fair to say, then wouldn't it be also fair to consider, or safe to consider, that if happiness is a biological process, what would happen if that biological process was somehow impaired, was somehow inhibited? For example, what if the body wasn't able to produce dopamine and serotonin like it's supposed to? You could do all the things that make you happy. You could even, hell, you could even become valedictorian of your college as far as I'm concerned. You could win the lottery. You could even win the freaking lottery and still not feel a shred of happiness or accomplishments. And yes, that can happen. And depression and major depressive disorder is exactly, and that's exactly the kind of thing that happens in people when they have major depression disorder. Their body just don't produce the chemical that allows them to be happy no matter what they do, and that is why it's considered a disorder. So with that being said, is happiness really a choice? Well, in some cases it is. You can't choose when to be happy, but what you can control is what kind of things that you engage in that will allow you to be happy. I mean, you could be having a bad day at work and decide, when I get home, I'm just going to sit down and read a book or play a video game or two to make myself feel better. Or instead of thinking about that one thing that some random guy at the gym or at school or at work said to get under your skin, you decide to go home and forget about it because you're at home now. You could relax. And then, you know, playing video games makes you happy in a bad game during a bad day, or reading a book or whatever, going to a gym, doing a few katas, beating on a punching bag, my personal favorite. I have a huge UFC punching bag. I love that thing. I don't beat on it as often because as my skill level has increased, I mean, I'm currently in karate, and I also I'm considering going into Muay Thai. I haven't really thought about it yet. I may just get on in after the New Year's, after the whole Christmas hype calms down and my emotions get back to normal, because I've been quite a real Scrooge lately. But as my skill level increases, I've been beating on the bag less because I have to find a way to make my stand heavier, but I'm digressing. But as I was saying, you could do things to make a long story short, the point I was trying to get at, because even I'm thinking to myself, get to the point already, you're wasting too much time babbling. And I'm still babbling, god damn it. To make a long story short, happiness is the result of chemical reactions in the brain. And when the brain fails to produce said chemical, to produce said neurotransmitter, then the person just can't experience the sensation on this happiness. They don't choose to be unhappy, they just can't be happy because their body isn't producing the chemical that is necessary for them to be happy. So, looking down on people and saying that they choose to be miserable, who chooses to be miserable, first of all? How is it that anyone could say that? Why do people choose to be miserable? Why would someone choose to be miserable? Come on. It sounds so fucking stupid to me. No way. I don't think any human in their right mind chooses to be miserable. Some people may act like they're miserable because they want attention, but that is not the same as actually choosing to be miserable. They're made to and even in the example that I just made, it's not simply them choosing to be miserable. They're just choosing to act a certain way because it thinks that it's going to get them a reward. You know, motivated by, reward. That sounds familiar, right? Yeah, dopamine, the chemical in the brain that gives you that happy feeling whenever you get a reward. Yeah, they're motivated by dopamines to act that way because they know that they'll get the attention they want and it'll make them feel good. Like girls with their Facebook and Instagram posts. They like to swallow themselves in likes because it just makes them feel happy. Like how I guess moderately attracted chick, I don't know how people say this word, but let's just say like some hot supermodel type chick or whatever, just an example. They post a pic of themselves being miserable, and then you have like a swamp ton of people rushing to their aid. I don't think those people are never actually miserable. They just know that if they say that they were miserable, people will come running to their aid because it makes them feel good. They're not miserable, they're just choosing to pretend to be miserable because they know that it gives them a reward. Oh, crap, it's the lunatic cultists. I'll leave them alone for right now. Because if I take them out, I have to fight their leader, and even though the boss fight isn't really hard, I'm not sure if I'll be able to focus on the fight and talk, because the boss moves around a lot. Then again, I got the last prism. If I use it at full power, I should be able to win this fight with little to no effort. There I go digressing again. Like I was saying before, people don't choose to be miserable. And yes, a person can choose to engage in activities that could make them feel better or to ease their sadness, so to say. But in some people, that just isn't the case. Some people, like people with people with depression, like I do, cannot produce serotonin and dopamine in the same way that normal people can. So, with all that being said, is happiness truly a choice? To an extent, yes, but for some people, not for everyone. I mean, you can't choose to be happy, but you can choose to engage in the activities that can make one happy. However, despite that, there are some people who just can't be happy at all due to inhibited biological processes, such as the production of serotonin and dopamine. And serotonin and dopamine is also responsible for other things such as sleep and appetite, which also explains why people with depression have trouble sleeping, sleep too much, eat very little, or eat too much. Because people with depression people who have been diagnosed with major depression are unable to produce such chemicals regularly or in the way that they're supposed to. So, next time you see someone having a bad day, instead of saying that they choose to be miserable and reflecting your own emotional state, just remember that just because you choose to lie to yourself about how you're feeling, other people aren't like that. Other people aren't as weak as you are. Other people prefer to be honest about their insecurities, be honest about their feelings, and confront them rather than cover them up and pretend that they don't exist. Stick their fucking heads in the damn sand. And I want to get, and while we're on the topic of depression, there's something else that I really want to talk about. I saw this post recently. I'm not gonna name the person who put the post. I like to protect identities. Not that I'll be popular enough for anyone to care anyways, but still, better safe than sorry. It's the freaking internet. What you do on here can haunt you for the rest of your life, maybe, if you aren't careful. There was this person who made a post. Well, there's two separate instances I'd like to talk about. One instance I'd like to talk about is that there was a friend of mine on Facebook who was feeling down in the dumps during the Christmas holidays. They mentioned something that happened to them. I think it was a death in the family that happened to them around the holiday season, or something like. I think it was a death. Somebody important to them died. I think it was their mother. I don't remember. My memory is so bad. But a friend of theirs commented on them as saying, be strong, be happy. It doesn't matter. You have to just learn how to be happy. You learn how to be strong. And so they were like, it's just hard to do it, it's just hard to be strong, just hard to get over it because, if something like a death of a loved one or something like that happened to you during the holidays, of course the holiday season from here on out is going to be a bit of a pain to you. It's going to be difficult to manage. And so the other friend who was trying to cheer them up was all like, okay, well, I'm trying to help, but whatever. Bye. So I'm just watching this. I'm just looking at it. I put in my 2 cents. I hope I managed to perk them up a little. And to the aforementioned person, if you're watching this, I really hope you're feeling better than what you were feeling before. I really do. I don't care too much about Christmas. And I may be a Scrooge, but that doesn't mean I want other people to be a Scrooge. But, and so as I was looking at this, I was able to find the problem immediately. You know, the problem is that it's not that your friend was being ungrateful or anything like that. I think the problem is that despite your intentions, you tried to make it about you. You didn't try to make it about your poor friend who was feeling down during the holidays. You just simply made it about you so that you could say that you were a good friend instead of trying to understand what your friend was going through. Another way I was able to tell is because of how quick you were able to give up. I mean, couldn't you have gone into that person's inbox and maybe talk it out with them or something like that? Instead, you tried to make it about you by just simply giving some lukewarm response so that that person may think that you have their best interests. But if you really did, you would try to understand what they're going through and how they're feeling. I, on the other hand, understood how they were feeling, so rather than focusing on me and me trying to make myself feel good by helping them, I just simply put myself in their shoes. And even though being happy after something like that happens to you during the most jolliest season of the year, which is ironically the season where a lot of depression happens, I try to focus on taking the pain away. I'm not trying to focus on making them feel better. I'm not trying to be a cure per se. I try to be as realistic as possible. And people who are that miserable, all they want more than anything... Oh god, did you hit the cultists? Fine, we'll eliminate them all. Oh crap, it's their boss. Like I was saying before, people like that who are in that kind of pain may not necessarily want to be happy, but what they desperately want is just for the pain to stop, really. So if you can at least distract them from the source of their suffering, that could be more than enough for them. And there's another instance I like to talk about where someone simply made a post about how saying that to those who have depression during the holidays, you're very strong. For those of you who has to consider committing suicide during the holidays, you're very strong or something like that. They didn't make the post themselves, they just simply shared it from someone else's Facebook. I mean, pretty much saying congratulations for not killing yourself. Did everything just freeze? Did I just freeze? What the hell just happened? I need to get out of this fight. It's lagging everything up. There are too many things on the screen. I think I'll just move it over here. Okay, like I was saying, in that post they were talking about how people with depression, how they were proud of people with depression because they haven't given up or something like that. They haven't killed themselves. And it's like, if you have depression or something like that, I am proud of you. And I'm like, I am proud of you? Well, that's a bad way of wording it. Because you're proud of them. Who the fuck are you? You're just some random person on Facebook. Do I have a homing weapon in here? It's like, you just say that I'm proud of you? So it's about you. It's about you. It's not about the person who's experiencing depression, who's experiencing the suicidal thoughts. It's about you. Seriously? And you know, that kind of got under my skin, so I put in my 2 cents, and I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. This is just dumb. Because by saying that, you're implying that it's about you and not the person who's experiencing the depression. I mean, I just hated those words. I'm proud of you for being strong. So what about those who have given up all hope? Are they weak to you? You're turning someone's disorder into... You're taking someone's disorder and turning it into some sort of fucking contest? Are you serious? I just hate how disingenuous people are when it comes to emotions. I mean, as adults, we should be more honest. We should be allowed to, at least, be allowed to feel more honest about what we're feeling. But I don't think that's the case. It's all about looking good. It's all about looking good for your peers. Geez, it's like once we get to high school, that's it for us. We don't move on to anything. We don't actually try to grow and mature. We just say that we're growing and maturing because it just makes us look and feel good. That's all it is. Just a fucking popularity contest. You know, it feels like that once I got to high school, everything just suddenly went to a fucking standstill. 10 years down the road, and people are still just focusing on impressing others. I don't get it. And I don't think I ever will get it. Even when I was in high school, I never cared about such a thing. But I'm digressing yet again. To make a long story short, happiness, it's not exactly black and white how happiness works. There's a lot of nuances involved. Sure, a person can't control how they can or can't be happy, but for others they just can't do it. And then for people with depression like me, it's damn near impossible. Because your body's just somehow won't produce the chemical that it's supposed to help you become happy. And it gets worse during the holiday season. So next time you see someone and claim that they're being negative for not being happy or that they choose to be miserable, take a look in the fucking mirror and realize that you're the one who's being negative. By not understanding their situation. You're just so quick to fucking judge them because it makes you feel good. And then yet everyone thinks you're a positive person? Please. It's a fucking facade. Quit fucking around with people. Stop taking people's feelings and experiences and turning it into your personal gain. Stop taking people's suffering and turning it into your personal gain. Because it is just the most despicable thing a human being could ever do. And that's all I have to talk about on Terraria Talks. I'm going to end the stream here, and I'll be talking to all of you again next time.